Last month, Nintendo hosted a live stream to reveal Super Smash Bros. Ultimate's latest DLC character, Min Min, the ramen-themed combatant from Nintendo's fighting game ARMS. Now, as usual, this was streamed in 3 regions, Japan, Europe, and North America, and at a glance, this pre-recorded reveal stream was more or less identical in all 3 regions. But if you watch closely, there were some fascinating changes made by Nintendo of America, specifically for the North American version of the stream. Today I'll show you a couple of the ways I noticed that Nintendo censored their own stream and give my best guesses as to why they did what they did. Now, an important thing to know is that this stream was already unusual from the jump. See, these Smash Bros. Reveal streams usually take place inside of Nintendo's offices, but this time around, Nintendo announced well in advance that due to the current world event,
whose name I cannot utter on YouTube, the whole thing would take place inside the house of the legendary Smash Bros. Creator and director Masahiro Sakurai.
もう分かった、すべて理解したと。つまり、ここは私の自宅なんですね。任天堂の公式放送で、自宅を晒した人ってもしかしたら初めてかもしれないですね。
As Sakurai himself noted, it's extremely rare for us to get even the smallest peek into the personal life of a major Nintendo figure, but that's exactly what we got, and indeed, the setting paid off. Not only do we get to see Sakurai's couch, which Japanese Twitter quickly identified, and which candidly I kind of want to buy now, this, strangely, is also where we get our first piece of bizarre censorship from Nintendo. Now, at the start of this stream, we get a quick glimpse at Sakurai's gaming setup, which includes a Nintendo Switch, a Wii, an Xbox One X, a PS4 Pro, a regular PS4, PS3, Famicom, Super Nintendo, a PC Engine, a PS1, and a Sega Mega Drive, or Genesis in the West, with the Mega CD, or Sega CD, attached. Now, if you're like me, you might have immediately noticed that there's actually a game cartridge in Sakurai's Mega Drive, but unfortunately, it's too far away and too small to really make out what it is. Now, when I first spotted this, I posted a screenshot to Twitter hoping that someone somewhere could maybe identify it based on this small handful of blurry, vaguely colorful pixels, and I got a lot of wrong guesses back. But one of the replies from a Twitter user named Partial Pizza actually had an extremely clear image of Sakurai's shelf, revealing that the game in Sakurai's Mega Drive was actually Space Harrier 2. Now, if you're like me, your reaction to this is something like, wait, what? Did I zone out and just miss that shot the first time through? But I went back to the stream and checked, and it simply wasn't there. The subtitles match up perfectly, but the image does not. And here's where we have our first weird bit of censorship. I took all 3 versions of the live stream and put them side by side in Adobe Premiere, and sure enough, if you play the American version of the reveal stream side by side with the European and Japanese versions, there's an entire close-up shot of Sakurai's gaming setup that was mysteriously yanked out of the US broadcast.
ゲームディレクターのお住まいという意味でもちょっと興味深いかもしれませんが。
Now, my favorite part about all this is how they chose to censor it. In the original Japanese broadcast, this moment just consisted of 2 still photographs, 2 perfectly still images of Sakurai's gaming setup. However, in the US version of the broadcast, because they had to stretch 1 photograph out over 10 whole seconds, Nintendo of America's editors got a little creative and decided to zoom in on the photo and pan gently across it and kind of hit it with that Ken Burns effect to make it slightly more visually interesting. So, why though? Why did Nintendo remove this shot from the American broadcast and only the American broadcast? We can only speculate, but personally, I have a theory why they yanked this shot, and it stems from something Sakurai said recently in his recurring column in Japan's Famitsu magazine. Last month, in the June 18th issue of Famitsu, in the 605th installment of Sakurai's recurring column, he wrote the following, quote, I play quite a lot of video games. If it ever becomes known that I'm enjoying a particular game, however, much ado tends to be made about so-and-so for Smash. In particular, misunderstandings like this flourish overseas. Due to this, I'm rather careful. I don't write what games I play on Twitter, and I usually decline offers to appear on shows about specific titles. In essence, what Sakurai is saying here is that these days he has to be extremely protective of what games he's playing, or else Smash Bros. Fans, especially North American Smash Bros. Fans, will immediately jump to speculation that a character from a game Sakurai is playing is getting added to Smash as a DLC fighter. I can think of no better example of this than last January when Western Smash Bros. Fans noticed that Sakurai's Nintendo Switch account had booted up the Switch version of Minecraft for the first time, and instantly fans lost their minds saying that this definitely confirmed that Minecraft Steve was coming to the game. So, back to the Min Min stream, why would Nintendo go out of their way to hide the Space Harrier 2 cartridge from American Smash fans? Well, the way I see it, there's 2 possibilities here. One is that Nintendo knew American Smash Bros. Fans would take that cartridge's appearance as a clue, not unlike the legendary Waluigi chair incident of 2018, and would immediately start speculating incorrectly that Harrier was getting added to Smash. Or Harrier is getting added to Smash, and Nintendo just wanted to throw us off the scent. Harrier for Smash confirmed. Now, that's more of an incidental bit of censorship, but there's another example from this very same stream where Nintendo straight up refused to translate something that Masahiro Sakurai said, and to me, this one is even more interesting than the Space Harrier thing. This moment comes much later in the stream when Sakurai is demoing Min Min for the first time. Listen closely to this clip.
ここに前でいきたいと思います。密です。ソーシャルディスタンスというやつですね。
Did you catch that?
ソーシャルディスタンスというやつですね。
In spite of what the subtitles say here, you can actually hear Sakurai use the phrase social distance in English, an oblique reference to current world event. But interestingly, when subtitling Sakurai here, Nintendo neglected to include his social distance joke at all, opting to translate everything Sakurai said here as simply, quote, "they're far too close." Now, as for why Nintendo declined to translate Sakurai's joke here, who can say? I mean, initially, I suspected that maybe Nintendo of America felt that acknowledging current world event would somehow be at odds with their family-friendly brand. Then again, perhaps Nintendo was aware of how acknowledging current world event can actually adversely affect a YouTube video. Now, normally we'd have to stop there, but it actually doesn't stop there. It turns out it goes even deeper. Let's go back to the Sakurai clip and look at exactly what he said in Japanese. 密です。ソーシャルディスタンスというやつですね。What Sakurai says here is mitsu desu, social distance to you yatsu desu ne, which roughly translates to too close. This is what they call social distance, right? And you wouldn't know it from a literal translation, but these words in this particular order have a very well-known meaning in current day Japan. It's actually a reference to a Japanese internet meme. Let me explain. This woman is Tokyo Governor Yuriko Koike. Koike has been the face of Tokyo's handling of current world event and has generally been lauded for her handling of it by Japanese voters, so much so that she actually won her re-election campaign for governor earlier this month. But arguably the most iconic moment from Koike arrived during a press conference back in April when she was swarmed by reporters who weren't obeying her social distancing guidelines. This was Koike's reaction. Now this pair of clips, the first from her initial scolding of the reporters, and the second from her relief at next day's press conference when they all stood far away from her. These two clips quickly became a huge meme in Japan. There was artwork, t-shirts, fan games, multiple fan games actually, and a lot of music. So if the phrase mitsu desu sounds familiar to you, it's because that's what Sakurai was alluding to in this stream. Mitsu desu. Social distance というやつですね. When Sakurai said mitsu desu and social distance back to back, he was actually referencing one of the year's biggest Japanese memes. And by the way, Japanese Nintendo fans immediately picked up on what Sakurai was putting down, and a cursory search of Twitter reveals that most of them thought it was very funny. It was clearly one of the highlights of the stream for Japanese Nintendo fans. Now, with all that in mind, that brings us back to our question, why did Nintendo censor this joke in the first place? Here's my best guess. While most Americans, almost all Americans, aren't familiar with the mitsu desu meme, I kind of suspect that if anyone is, Nintendo Treehouse's translators and localizers are clued in enough to Japanese culture that they understood what Sakurai was referencing here. I believe Sakurai's comment left Nintendo in a tricky position. They essentially had three choices here, and none of them were perfect. One, they could just literally translate Sakurai's social distancing comment, which would strip it of its original context as a Japanese meme. Two, they could, I guess, try to explain the nuance of the meme he was referencing as a parenthetical, which would be an extremely messy and not very Nintendo-like thing to do. Or, option three, they could simply sidestep the problem entirely by just ignoring the social distancing line and instead choosing to translate what Sakurai said in the loosest possible terms. Now, obviously, Nintendo chose option three. They chose kind of the easy way out here. And while there's no doubt that some of Sakurai's meaning was lost by Nintendo's translation, I kind of can't blame Nintendo for making this choice. I mean, keep in mind, this joke from Sakurai comprised only 3 seconds of a full 35-minute stream that someone had to translate, and someone at Nintendo decided that this throwaway joke was simply not worth the trouble to translate. I think that's understandable, and also to the Nintendo employee who made this choice, if you're watching this, thank you, because you gave me a whole video's worth of stuff to talk about. And hey, speaking of things worth talking about, while many countries have begun to recover from current world event, here in the United States, the crisis is still far from over. Not only that, but those in poverty have been among the hardest hit, struggling to pay bills, their rent, and even basic necessities like food. So I've been thinking about it while writing this video, and here's what we're gonna do. That current world event image that I threw together that I keep popping up during this video, for the rest of the month, we're selling that image on a t-shirt and donating 100% of the proceeds from these sales to the Give Directly Current World Event US Response Fund. Through this program, Give Directly allows you to provide cash relief to American families most in need during this time. Their goal is to provide funding for 100,000 families within 100 days, and as of the time I'm recording this, they're already at 99,000 families, so I really think we can make a difference here and help push them over that final edge. Now, there's a few options on sale here. There's just a classic t-shirt, there's hoodies, there's a sticker, there's a cloth face mask if you want one of those, and there's my favorite, a truly
intense, all over print tee, which is one of the most garish pieces of clothing I think ever committed to fabric. Purchase any of these items and 100% of the proceeds will go to Give Directly, and if you're not in the market for a shirt or any of these goodies, you can also just donate to Give Directly through the YouTube Giving sidebar, which is underneath this video if you're on your phone, or to the right of this video if you're on desktop. Anyways, stay safe out there, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.